As a mechanical engineer who does space projects in his spare time, here's some 5 lessons learned that you can learn for your cosplays. Lesson 1. Keep it simple, stupid, known as KISS. Satellites don't have the opportunities for regular maintenance or service, and that means that, yeah, there are some instances where satellites do get serviced, like the Hubble Space Telescope. That's determined on the value of their mission and the value of their satellite. Usually satellites that are being launched nowadays don't have that luxury, therefore they need to be able to last their whole mission. And that means that a simple design is a more reliable design, and you should think about that for your cosplay and your props. Try and keep the amount of parts as low as possible. Keep it as simple as a design, especially if it's the first time you've done something, because as you're learning, it's going to be very daunting if you try and do a complex cosplay or a prop, and just try and keep things as basic as simple, because then if you want the experience to complete something and you have a good lessons learned, then you're able to do better designs in the future. Lesson 2, you need to consider transportation. When it comes to satellites, especially when it comes to their testing, where you have to prove that it will survive the launch loads and the environment stresses that it involves, you also need to test to make sure that it will actually survive in space, like in a vacuum, thermal, vibration, shock. But this also means that you have to consider how you're going to transport this satellite, and also your satellite has to use up has volume constraints within the rocket and any deployers that it's going to be inserted to. So when you're designing mechanisms for your solar panels, for your antennas, you have to make this as compact as possible and to ensure that it will deploy successfully. That's the same thing when it comes to your cosplay. You need to think of how you're going to transport your cosplay if you're going to go to do a convention, like say for example another country, a new state, where you're going to have to travel via train, aircraft, plane. You have a limited amount of space in your luggage, and so when it comes to transportation, maybe you should consider to make this as simple to disassemble. You can use thumb screws instead of normal screws, so you don't need to carry special equipment like screwdrivers, Allen keys. You can also consider using snap fits, which makes it really easy to attach together and disassemble. Magnets. Always consider how easy it is to not only pack into your luggage, but also consider how you're going to assemble and disassemble. Also, how the security are going to handle your cosplays, because security doesn't care about how fragile something is. One idea you could look at, you can maybe use your clothing as padding in your suitcase, so you could actually lay out your clothing in a way, like for example ranger rolling. You should look into ranger rolling, where you fold up your clothes, like your t-shirts, your underwear, your socks, into like mini pads, so it's like as if you've got like a mini bubble wrap as your clothing. You can maybe consider that. Lesson 3, you should maybe consider repurposing alternative solutions. So what that means is, in my experience, a lot of aerospace and space grade components are ridiculously expensive, because sometimes there's a joke, if it's aerospace or space, to add an extra couple of zeros. Me personally, I have used parts that were used in cars because they used the same materials like stainless steels, titaniums, aluminiums that are suitable for spacecraft. I used them and then repurposed those equipment, so I sometimes might have like drilled extra holes or like tapped something or whatever, machined it down, and then I qualified those parts for the space environment, so I saved a lot of money. And building a satellite is really expensive, so I managed to develop satellites for very cheap without breaking the bank. You can actually maybe consider, here's another thing that might blow your mind. I have used a tape measure as a hinge for solar panels. Honestly, to trick you guys, I would actually have it painted in silver None of you would know know there was actually a tape spring. That's the kind of thing you should maybe think of. If you want to have a replica prop and it's maybe too expensive for your budget, maybe consider an alternative copy. I'm not talking about like a knockoff, but maybe a similar prop. Say, for example, you have like a specific sword or something from a character. Maybe you can consider like either making your own prop or find something similar and modifying it to be slightly similar to the actual prop that you want to make. That's all dependent on if your budget is really tight. Fourth, and this will take a bit of explaining, is Kaizen. This is a really good lesson that I've used. Kaizen is a Japanese philosophy of continual improvement, and it's gradual improvement. So instead of trying to be perfect in everything, try and consider going for the most minimum acceptable level. So for example, if you're doing a cosplay for the first time for a character that's quite complicated, maybe do a simplified version of them, and then as you complete it, because completion is an actual objective everyone should do, because you'll get valuable experience. So maybe do something a bit simple, and then consider like maybe doing better at doing gradual iterations of your cosplay, of your character. Maybe in 6 months' time you do another con, you improve something like the mechanisms or the props, and then the more you go to the cons, you start slowly improving your character, and that way you don't make as many mistakes. You keep things as simple as lesson 1. You gain more confidence in yourself, you gain more confidence in your abilities, you gain more confidence in your skills, and then you can slowly start getting better and better. And that'll help you even like every couple of months, let's say for example $50 or €50 or something, and you're just making little adjustments and improvements to your cosplay. Finally, number 5, have a plan. I was involved once in a mission where we were building a satellite and we didn't have a mission and plan. And what happened was 8 months into the project, and we were supposed to launch in 16 months, and we were told what the mission was going to be in the satellite. Let's just say those 8 months that we worked on that satellite was a waste of time, because we had to essentially rip up the satellite, the plan, and that was really expensive and really stressful and take a time delay. And without a mission in mind from the beginning, we had a lot of pain and a lot of money that was wasted, and a lot of time and a lot of stress. So when it comes to your cosplay, maybe you should, before you buy anything, before you start building, sketch out your plan. What character you want to make. So for example, you want to make Deadpool, you want to make a Deadpool one. Well, sketch out what in your Deadpool cosplay that you want to do. Do you want to have like certain universes or certain character arcs, or based in certain films? Is there certain props, is there certain weapons, replica weapons you want to do? Whatever, have a plan of what you want your cosplay to be, and stick to that plan. Obviously sometimes things change due to circumstances, due to money. Always can think about what you want to do before you start building, because if you start buying items for your cosplay, like props or something, and you halfway through your cosplay build you change things, it's going to be really expensive, and you might even give up, which will be a shame. And those are my 5 lessons learned. Let me know what your lessons that you've learned that you also want to add to the list. Drop a comment in the video.